poverty in the Philippines. We have Mr. Roderick De Castro here as our reference person.
As the Executive Director of Team Energy Foundation Incorporated, Mr. Roderick De Castro manages programs, operations budget, and organizational development of Team Energy Foundation Incorporated. One of his functions is taking the lead in embedding corporate social responsibility into the regular process of business. Before becoming Executive Director, he served as DEFI's Deputy Executive Director for 4 years. In that capacity, he managed the National Rural Electrification Program of the foundation that brought energy to more than 300,000 households.
Mr. De Castro has presented in various international conferences like the 14th session of the Committee on Sustainable Development of the United Nations in New York, the first Global Partners Conference in the Global Village Energy Project in Brasilia, Brazil, and the second International Green Technology and Purchasing Conference in Malaysia. To start our discussion, when we say someone is living in poverty, what does that mean?
Well, it depends on how you define poverty. Basically, the basic definition of poverty is a household or an individual who lacks basic services, education, health, shelter, and food. And it's below a particular poverty line set by government in the country. But then again, it depends on how you define it. Like for example, in Bhutan, there was an instance when the United Nations visited the country, and they said, and they claimed that Bhutan is the poorest country in the world. But if you ask the king of Bhutan, he said, "What did you notice when you passed by the houses?" And he said, "They don't have television, they don't have refrigerators, they don't have air condition." But he asked them, "Did you notice the smiles in their faces?" So in Bhutan, for example, it's all about gross national happiness. The people are happy, and if the people are happy, there's no poverty. But in our situation, you lack basic services, you're poor, so you're below the poverty line. So that's poverty.
Sir, what are the causes of poverty?
Causes of poverty in the Philippines. There are so many. One is well, there are no venues the lack of venues for many of us to be able to be productive and earn enough to live above the poverty line. And secondly, it's again lack of basic services in the far-flung areas. We have provinces, for example, or municipalities that do not even have a health officer, and most of them who are not able to eat 3 times a day. Most of them eat once, sometimes every other day. So the reason for poverty really is the lack of basic services and the inability of our government to bring basic services to these areas.
How much of the poverty that you see is situational and how much is generational?
Well, sometimes the generational is a result of the situational. Like if you're a family living in a far-flung area, in a far province, for example, of Mindanao, and you're not that rich in a way that you don't have television, you don't have electric fan, you don't have air condition, you live in a bahay kubo, but you eat 3 times a day. Your children go to school. But when you go to the city, things change. Suddenly you don't have food to eat because you do not have work. There's no area to plant vegetables. There's no area to plant rice, so you have to buy food. But you don't have money to buy it because you do not have work. So because of that situation, you become poor. And when you have children, that's generational. So they're born to a poor family who was a result of a situation that family created. So sorry if I'm confusing you, but that's how it is here in the Philippines. Generational is actually a result of the situation that was brought about by the parents of the family, the leader of the family.
How has poverty changed with the recent economic downturn?
Poverty changed. It became worse than it was before. The gap between the rich and poor even increased, did not decrease. And the economic downturn, it's not really. Well, if you look at the streets in Manila, you will see that there are cars worth 10 million pesos, 11 million pesos. But beside those cars, you see people sleeping in the streets. So, that graphical representation alone will show you the gap between the rich and the poor here in the country. So the economic downturn, we say that we have a better economy than we had 10 years ago, but it doesn't show.
What type of resource do people in poverty have available to them?
They don't have any resource available to them. That's why they're poor. That's why they're in a situation of poverty. Again, it's a lack of basic services, food, shelter, education, and health.
Sir, how does poverty affect the children?
It is a major effect of the children. Of course, the children. Again, if you go to the streets of Manila, and for example, you stop in a traffic light, you see children selling, hawking, or begging, tapping on your windows. And sometimes you can't help but asking yourself, where are the parents of these children? So the ultimate victims of poverty are really the children. And in many television documentaries, when they feature poverty, even the food that the children eat are food that they take out from the trash that they throw out. So they can't study because they can't afford it. And I even saw this story shown in TV when this child who was stealing from cars that were stopped in the traffic light, and they were speeding, and he got hit by the car. So it's the children who are the ultimate victims. As they say, if you're poor, why would you like to have children? Because anyway, they're the ones who are going to be they're the ones who will suffer in poverty, and they'll grow up to be either thugs or bad elements of society, or will just be unproductive citizens. So why even bother to have children if you're poor?
Sir, how about the elderly?
Again, it's unlike the United States or some countries in Europe, we are not a welfare country wherein our government takes care of the elderly. So some of them, they just die. Some of them, most of them who die. I have stories of people who die who are very, very poor, can't afford to be buried. They just sell the body to maybe medicine school so it can be used for medicine students. So they're that poor. And the elderly, like children, they're the ones who suffer the most because nobody can take care of them. We have like shelters for the elderly, but we can only cater to so many of them. We can't really put everyone in one shelter because we can't really afford it. So, like the children, they're the ones who are the ultimate victims of poverty.
How are we as a country contributing to keeping people in poverty?
How are we contributing to keeping people from being poor? I think we're doing a poor job, unfortunately. That's why in the Philippines we have 500,000 non-government organizations, because the government cannot fulfill the role of providing for its citizens. Again, the role of an NGO is filling the gap between the need of society and the capability of the government to fulfill that need. So, as many more NGOs you have, the more you are in a dire situation. Like, for example, in Team Energy Corporation, is owned by Tokyo Electric Power and Marubeni Corporation in Japan. The Japanese could not understand why, for example, why do we have to fund to put in solar electrification in a far-flung marginalized area to fulfill that role. Because in Japan, it's all about improving their lifestyle. They don't know anything about poverty, but in the Philippines, we're still in the poverty level.
Sir, what do you think about the people who live in poverty would want you to know about them?
Well, we don't have to do so much for us to know about them. Like I said, you just go out in the streets and you see children begging on your windows. You see the elderly tapping on your windows. You see the slums all around you.